Hey, it's your girl Nicole, and you are listening to the Risers Hub podcast. Welcome. Okay. Hey, it's your girl Nicole, and you're listening to the Risers Hub podcast. And today I want to celebrate family and raising strong, champion minded crumb snatchers. We're talking about parenting. Now, I do understand that every family is different and every child is different, but I'm hoping for this episode you can get some small golden nuggets of information from two amazing and inspiring individuals, David and Mechelle Freeman. Now, David and Mechelle are parents of two beautiful kids, Bane, 10, and Harley, 8. Now, as individuals, they are incredible. They work hard, they believe in their craft, and they are building an amazing lifestyle, starting with their passion in fitness and sport and cultivating their passions in their children. Even though raising their family starts with David and Mechelle and cultivating their passions is part of the foundation, there's a lot of time, hard work, and effort that goes behind what they are building. But before we get started, let me tell you who they are to everyone else on the surface. David is North America Director of Alpha Training Studio at Lifetime Fitness and co-chair of Lifetime Inclusion. Also, congratulations for being awarded the 100 Black Men of Greater Dallas-Fort Worth. Mechelle is a track and field Olympian. Her specialty is a 100-meter dash and the 4x100-meter relay back in 2007, 2008, and she is the Olympic relay coach and also the founder of Track Girls, which I'm a fan of, providing girls access to sport, mentorship, and education through track and field empowerment programs. Now, like I said, they are the parents of Bane and Harley. And so my first question to you guys, now Bane plays flag football and track, and then Harley's in soccer and track. Are you the crazy parents screaming on the sidelines when they're playing their sports?
Well, I'm more of the crazy parent at practice.
Okay.
Yeah, because I just need to make sure they understand what they're doing right and wrong when they're practicing. So by the time we get to the track meet or competition day, they can handle it from there. They know the expectations from how we handle track practice.
Okay.
Or soccer practice.
And David, you're quiet. So what does that mean?
Yeah, that's my demeanor. We're the epitome of yin and yang. So it's funny she said at practice. She's the crazy one at games as well. But that's what you want. You want a little bit of fire, you want a little bit of ice. So Shell's definitely the fire starter, and I'm the cool one.
All right. So the one question I get asked all the time is, how did I raise such exceptional kids? And honestly, there's no secret formula to it. Like anything else in life, the girls they tried a few sports, they gravitated to what they loved, and then we put all the work into that. My major goal for both of my kids was just to keep them away from the boys. And then the comment that I get now is, now that I've raised them, can you stop talking about them so much? So I wanted to know, what is the one question people ask you guys about you and your family and your kids, and how do you plan on raising them, even when they were born up until now, and then in the future, what's your plans on raising them?
Yeah, this one, it's a unique question for sure. And we hear a lot. I believe it's the expectation that everybody else has already placed on them, just knowing who their parents are. You mentioned Shell being an Olympian. I was an athlete as well from a collegiate level. So they automatically assume like they got to be the greatest athletes to come to this world, right? So what we try to make sure we instill first is making sure that they have fun. And we want to always make sure that they have fun. We also instill a lot of great things around work ethic, understanding if you want to arrive here, then you have to put in the time and the work in this space to be able to become great in your craft. So it's just that it's a balance. Like having fun is number one priority, and understanding great work ethic is kind of like what we instill within them. But I would say the question, or more of the expectation that people have put, is that they're going to they're going to be beasts, they're going to be amazing.
Yeah.
We already feel like they are that. And whatever they end up doing, if that is sport or whatever thing that they want to do, we want to champion that for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I like saying David and I breed it because no, wait, but yes, we have exceptional athletic capabilities. So our children should as well because they have the genes.
Mhm.
However, that's, it's more to us than just that. One of the biggest things is, yes, you can excel in that area, but we also want them to understand that you have to remain in control of your decisions. So while we were great athletes, we were also exceptional in other areas. So making sure you have control of your decisions. So if something doesn't work out, if you get injured or something like that, you can turn to the other area that you're gifted in and use your talents, such as when I got injured in college and I decided to go to grad school and go that direction. So it's just important that they understand how to pivot. So the expectation is for them to just be well rounded and just stand in control of how you move forward.
Okay. And so, it's funny how every generation, especially in the Black community, changes over every 10 years, every 5 years. So, do you think that your parenting is like your parents' parenting? And if so, what's the same? And then if not, what would you say is different?
I would say I have a lot of similarities from how I was raised and what I instill into the kids. But these are the things that I think should be basic principles of understanding responsibility. So when it comes to work ethic, I go back to that. It just translates beyond just the sport. You being able to get up, make up your bed, brush your teeth, like, clean up after yourself. So those are things that I feel carry beyond the sport, and it's just life lessons that they should be able, or life skills, I'm sorry, that they should be able to implement throughout life. So I do appreciate my parents for always, what I thought was just being hard on me. They were giving me the foundation that leveled me up to be, in my opinion, a great father, hopefully, right? A great husband too,
Yeah.
day in and day out. But the reality is we still are learning in this process. And granted, we are teaching the kids. I always say this to people all the time. I feel like we learn so much from them more than what we will probably ever teach them. So I
True.
appreciate what my communities taught me. And I try to, bring as much out of the kids that I can from those lessons, but I also enjoy the lessons that the kids have taught us over the years.
Yeah. I've seen pictures of your dad, and he reminds me so much of my dad. They're very stoic and they're very like, move forward, do it this way, do it that way. So I can totally see that. And then your mom is just like my mom. She's just the life of the party and just living it up. So I think it's a really good combination. Mechelle, how do you think the the way that your parents raised you and how you're raising your kids, is it similar or is it different?
Yeah. My parents taught me, number one, to always be there for the people you love. They taught me how to work hard for what you want to achieve. They taught me not to settle. They taught me to to reach for the bigger picture, even if you're the only one who sees it. They taught me the importance of sometimes having to rely on others and the support of community for you to move forward. So, yes, all of those things come into play when I try to lead my children. And I'm so grateful to have the parents that I had to be able to instill those lessons. So, yeah, I will say that is definitely more similar to what I was brought up through.
Now, somebody would ask, how do you teach your kids at such a young age what you just explained? Because, it's like you said, it's you learn it from your parents. So in your mind, and at least with me, it's just what you do. So
Yeah.
do you have a couple of examples of like how would you instill that in your kid?
I just think that it is your everyday actions of just showing up in those ways, just just leading by doing.
Hmm.
When they see you living against those values, then they one day will understand what that meant because some of those lessons didn't happen actively, while it was happening, but retrospectively when looking back and saying like, wow, now as an adult, you can look back and take in those lessons a little bit more than what you did at the time. What you remember is them being there. What you do remember is things happening and working out for you. And that's important for the kids to experience as it's happening. And then as you get older, you understand a little bit more about how and why, for you to really appreciate how that came to pass.
Okay. And then another thing you guys mentioned was about community. So what kind of community did you build around your kids? And what do you require as parents for others to make sure that your kids are safe and, they're consistent with their daily goals?
Yeah, I think Shell learned this from her. She was just talking about how her mother and father always made sure that they had access. So what we do is we make sure that they're exposed to so many different environments and how diverse these environments are and how they can learn from any and everything underneath the sun. So just making sure that they're just not having one thing that they see all the time that now creates a bias. So getting them out, seeing the world, they're going to have the opportunity, to travel a little bit, this summer as far as going over to Paris, but just getting them exposed in different places so they understand what the world looks like and how there's so much out there for them to learn.
Yeah. I mean, I was, whatever we showed interest in, my mom wanted us to at least try it. So from dancing to
Yeah.
sport to Girl Scouts to theater to Catholic school, I've experienced it all. And so I can, like I said, move forward in a way that I have the option on what path I want to take instead of not understanding that those options exist.
Okay. So raising our kids in this day and age is very different from when I was raised and when you were raised, because there's like a 20-year difference between us. Okay. So our kids have more privilege and freedom than what it looked like for us. And so how do you manage that?
Yeah, that's so good because now this day and age, they have opinions and they have perspectives and they should be heard and understood. And when we grew up, it was, you don't have access to this. I don't care what you say. I don't care how you feel. No, I mean, but it was like that. But I mean, in a way where you understood it was a clear distinction between adults and children as far as, the line of communication. Nowadays, children expect two-way communication, so they can be heard and understood. I just think that now, with this day and age, it's important to take in and hear from them so we can understand how they feel and where they're coming from. But they still understand that they have to do what they're told.
Of
Um,
course.
yes, yeah, and they still have to understand that we're the adults and we decide what's the best decision based on the safety and and what we think is best for their outcome because our perspectives is supported with a little bit more experience and wisdom. So while we take in what they feel and hear from them, we have to consider and balance that with what we know a little bit more to help lead them in the right direction.
Hey, thanks
Yeah.
for tuning in.
Go
You
ahead.
got
Remember, this
appreciation. Yeah, I was gonna
podcast
say
is
you have
for both
appreciation for your
education and entertainment purposes
curiosity
only.
as well.
I
Yeah.
am not a
And being that
licensed
they
so it's
are
crucial to
able
consider
to be exposed to
physicians,
so many
psychic
things at their
qualified health
fingertips and
professionals for
with
personalized advice.
just an
Till next
access
time,
to
take care.
internet and just being able to get
If
to
you're
things so
enjoying this
much quicker than
podcast,
what
I
we
would
had to
like to
do is
ask
go
you,
like figure it
please
out.
subscribe
So with
and
that,
share.
Shell said, just seek to
Other things for you to
understand,
do at the end of this
and within that
podcast. So,
curiosity,
hook me up.
explore that.
Thanks.
And
Bye.
that's the key is the communication of understanding why. You want to understand this why it stems from something. Last thing you want to do is put that flame out because now they're going to go seek it from someone else. So them being comfortable to be able to come to you and the way that we are raising them and they are evolving right before our eyes, just knowing as adults, we're evolving too. So we can't go back to, well, this is how it was when I was raised, because now we're putting that bias of this is the only way that works versus like we have to evolve as they evolve. So we both stay relevant in the conversation, but more importantly, so the conversation is appreciated on both sides.
Yeah, I remember disciplining probably Mia, and And he had one way of disciplining, I had one way of disciplining, but we were on the same page, but it was like we had to change it because we were so used to like, you get, if you talk back or you do this, you get a spanking. And
Right.
the spanking we realized wasn't really working. So we had to change it up and we had to start taking things away that they loved, or show our disappointment. And I think, well, I know with both of our girls, if we show any form of disappointment, that's the punishment right there. And so my curiosity for you guys, because you guys have such young kids, what is your disciplinary actions? And, I'm not telling you tell people beat their kids or anything, but because, when they talk back, I mean, something's got to happen. But
Yeah.
what do you guys do as far as disciplining your kids?
So, I mean, we've evolved in this space too, because to your point, I think the mindset was give them a spanking so they remember this pain so they don't do that again. And as we've evolved over the past 3, 4+ years, it's more of why did you do that? Like, help me understand why you did that. Now, you made daddy and mommy upset with that. What do you think your punishment would be or should it be? Right. And in that conversation, they start to unpack like, oh, okay, this is something like, and they say what they want for their punishment, which is not punishment. But we end up saying, all right, well, this is what's going to happen. You're going to not have this, let's say electronics for a month.
Mhm.
And yeah, they'll get upset, and then they go to their room, but then they come back, let's say a few minutes later, and they might apologize for their act and understanding. Now, could that apology be derived from I want to get my electronics back sooner than a month? It could. That doesn't mean it happens, but you have to have conversations around why they're being disciplined versus me responding with emotion and giving you a few different pops. And now I just popped you and you might be confused, like, why did I get popped? So having the conversation of yeah, you talk back, but why are you talking back? You might have watched something on YouTube and thought it was cool, right? So like, why is this behavior happening? They saw their peers doing it. So seek to understand once again and have conversation around it, but also understanding being firm with your discipline and not backtracking so they understand that when it is a punishment, that it actually happens versus, oh, we're now going to backtrack and now give you what we just said you won't have.
Yeah. I remember when Nia got upset with her dad at one point, and this is how I knew we couldn't spank her anymore because she was so angry she didn't know how to like express it. So she had heard somebody at school say mother fudge. This was what did you use that word. And so instead of saying mother fudge, she was like, mother fudge. And I could see her processing the anger. And I thought it was I think everything's funny. So that's my bad. But I thought it was funny, but at the same time, I realized that like she was processing her anger and she wanted to like let us know that she was angry. And that was the only way that she could like express it. And so we like David said, like we had to sit her down and say, okay, where is this anger coming from? Why are you so upset? And what made you say this word? Because that's when I realized she was smart. Cause I'm like, if she can take that word and switch it to father, you know what, and then try to express how she feels, there's some thought behind that. And so I know that's like a silly example, but it made me think about exactly what David said is like, okay, there's something behind this. And instead of just spanking it away or what you said, popping it away, let's talk about it and figure it out. And then we're going to take something away from you to let you know, like you're still in trouble, but we're not going to tolerate this kind of language or behavior in our house. So I just find it very interesting. Yeah.
I think
Go
you
ahead.
had a time to be where you're navigating emotional and mental health in different ways. It's a little bit more exposed and accepted to be more vulnerable, to share what you're experiencing. And I think during our generation, we were holding that in a little bit more because in the way that we were raised, you didn't have, you had to listen to the adult. Your opinion wasn't as heard as immediately. And so I do want to make sure that, like David said, you're evolving with the time so that our children keep up with understanding that you can share your emotional and mental just experiences and be open to sharing how you feel. So they don't grow up thinking that they have to navigate that alone.
Mhm. And now, how do you guys handle setbacks and failures in your child's journey?
I love it. I love it. I feel like failure is the best learning experience. And that's how you learn. Like you fell off the bike how many times before you got it, right? Like figuring things out is part of the process. And if you end up thinking that you're always going to win, right? You think you're always,
I
yeah.
expect
But that's my point. I mean,
It's
that's that
different.
back to the yin and yang of fire and ice. I love the journey of failure because you're gaining something. I got to share it. And Nelson Mandela, I think it's a quote from Nelson Mandela. I was like, always, I never lose. I either win or I learn. And if you can always have that type of mindset, like, all right, now I know what not to do. I now know how to approach this differently the next time. If I fail that time, I'm going to approach it differently that next time. So you're always growing. And I just love it. I'll give you one example. That championship game. We ended up having an undefeated season in Bain's flag football team. I mean, just undefeated, just dominating.
Mhm.
We're winning, 14-0 at halftime in the championship game. We ended up losing that game 15-14.
He was the head coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I could not sleep. And it was the worst feeling in the world.
Mhm.
I learned so much as a coach, but those boys, they're just used to always winning.
Yeah.
They thought that was the norm. So I'd rather them go through now I want the championship. Let me be clear. But I'd rather them go
I've heard you yell in some of those videos.
yeah, them going through that at the age of 9, 10, 11, like they're always going to remember that moment. And they know when that opportunity presents itself again, they're going to play differently. They're going to execute differently. And that's the beautiful part about growth and learning through failure.
Yeah.
When it comes to setbacks and failures with the kids, it's tough because they see David and I, and they do see us winning. We win. That's what we do.
Yeah.
But we don't win all the time. But we win enough to where they expect to win.
Mhm.
But I try to let them understand that when you see the wins, like you haven't seen all the losses. And
Right.
when I look back on my track career, I lost way more races than I won. The key was that I won at the right time.
Right.
And so it's just for them to understand that you will lose. Like David said, you will lose. But how do you learn from that? And how do you continue to develop so that you can win at the right times? And so, yeah, you got to take in the losses and the lessons, but just understand that you should be setting yourself just to win at the right times.
Mhm. Now, the next question is like, how do you balance pushing your child to excel and ensuring that they are balanced, within their childhood? Because, like, you know, uh, with me, it's conversations. So, if the oldest one has a goal and the youngest one has a goal, I have to approach them a little bit differently because they're different. They're two different individuals. They have the same work ethic, but they're very two different individuals. And then there's a balance in pushing them to, greatness. And there is a balance of, okay, I'm here to listen and be a parent and be supportive. So how do you guys balance that?
I mean, that's just every day. Like
Yeah,
just
it is.
habit. Yeah, like every single day, the habits. So I think David's really great about his discipline and his work ethic every day. So they see it in him every single day. I mean, I have it too, but David doesn't play. Like his margin of error of deviating away from the plan is very minimal. So it's who he is, and they have that, and just seeing that in their father every day. But it's important that they understand that, like we said, it's still not everything if you don't get everything you want when you're working towards something. But the key is that you're pushing yourself. When it comes to pushing the kids versus supporting the kids, it's very important for them to understand how to push themselves to be their best. Like every single day is in the habits that you have every day. And so it's important for them to show up and knowing that they're trying their best, their effort is their best. And I was just saying that David is a good example of that because he has a very minimal deviation from the integrity of showing up and doing the things that are necessary. to be his best self every single day. Is that good?
Yeah. I was going to say model behavior. Model
Yep.
behavior. What they see is what they believe. That's actually one of the, the sayings from 100 Black Men. What they see is what they believe. And to that, okay, if we're working out or if we're making up our bed, it seems so simple. If we're putting away the dishes, they see this behavior. And when they start doing the things that they see, it bangs out in the garage or Harley with them and they're working out because they've seen the workouts before.
Exactly.
If they're practicing the things that they want to get better at, they're watching YouTube highlights of what they want to become,
Mhm.
sports related, they start to put in that work ethic. And then if they now raise their hand and say, hey, I want to get better at this and I'm struggling with it, we're already challenging them day in and day out. But okay, you want to put in this work? This is what it's going to take. So just being transparent with them, modeling the behavior, and then keeping that open door of communication, knowing when it gets to a point of it's no longer pushing, it's
Mhm.
now taking them to the level of they no longer are enjoying it. You got to be aware of that as well.
Yeah.
And just for the listeners out there, I know that you're probably, if you're watching this video, you see 3 athletes on the video and you're like, okay, they're all athletes and they're talking about working out and all this other stuff. But if you're just a parent just trying to get by and you have a kid who has a talent in something, whether it's creative wise or whether it's academics or athletics, if you listen to what they're saying, it's all about consistency, it's all about discipline, and it's all about modeling. And so take out the athletic part of it if you have to. We just can't. This is our life. But if you are not athletic, think about what they're saying. The foundation of this is modeling and discipline and consistency. So I just want to make that very clear for the listeners because, you know, your kid doesn't have to be an Olympian. They can just be, straight A student or straight B student, whatever that level is for your family. But you have to show up and you got to be there as a parent. So that's what we're talking about today. Now,
Yeah.
another thing I want to talk about is how do you manage the pressure and expectations placed on your child, especially in a competitive environment?
I mean, the thing about managing expectations is it's just making sure they understand what has to get done for you to achieve what's in front of you.
Mhm.
It just comes down to what has to get done for you to achieve what's in front of you.
Right.
And it is really that. And either you're doing the work or you're not. And so if you have a goal in front of you or if you see something you want to achieve in front of you, then you need to understand what has to be done to achieve it. And then you work back from there and you commit yourself to that. And that goes all the way down to your daily functional living and making that decision right there. Do I do this or that? And then you can line it back up to where you want to go. What do you want to achieve? And then your answer comes from, does this support that or not? And then you know what your decision is. And so it's just important for you to understand what you want to achieve and then committing every single day, every single choice to making that happen.
Okay.
High
Is it-
pressure situations, you said, right?
yeah. How do you manage the pressure and expectations placed
The
on your kid?
pressure, but that's what I'm saying. The pressure, if you're doing it every single day, then
There is
that
no
takes
pressure.
away the pressure. Cause I
Right.
mean, you already know what to do. You already know what you've been doing every single day. So the pressure isn't there because you operate in that small space of what you've been doing every day. And you can be anywhere. You could be at the world stage. You can be in your home, but your consistency of who you are is going to be there. And so the pressure alleviates from that.
Yeah, the environment in itself for if you're watching your kids and this is a high pressure or high expectation, it goes back to this is the opportunity. Pressure is somewhat of a privilege. You're put in a situation to perform.
Yeah.
And the only way pressure arrives if there's a high expectation. So I'm like, you gotta think about it. To the point of what Sheldon just said, you put in the work. It's not going to just happen on game day now. Like,
Right.
oh, you put in the work. So as a parent, I know I've done all the things that I can do to pour into our children, right?
Mhm.
They've done all the things that they've been doing. Great. May the best person win in that high pressure situation. And guess what? Even if, big if, we lose, learn, you build, you'll get another opportunity. And when it comes, you now know what to do.
Exactly. And Michelle, you asked me earlier if I was going to one of the meets. This is why I can't go to most of the meets because I have not learned how to deal with pressure, whereas my child has. So
Well, she's in it. I
I
mean,
sit
it's
there
different.
calmly until she
Yeah.
I lose my mind. So like I literally can't watch it sometimes. But yeah, that's
Hard for parents though. It's hard for parents because like I just said, she Nia's in it. You know what I mean? Like she's the one every single day showing up. She knows what she can do. She knows what she has to do. It comes down to execution. We're on the outside. We have no control. And we are just out there trying to be supportive. So that just goes to controlling the controllables. We hear that all the time. So in your role, what can you do to support what your child is doing? And then that's what you do your best in. You know what I mean? Like you show up in your way to do what you can in your role. And so that's what you focus on. So yeah, you don't have the pressure. You don't
yeah,
give yourself that pressure. You just, again, stay in your small circle in your head, as in what I can do as Nia's mom
yeah, yeah,
to be here for her. And then she'll handle it from there. She has it. She's done that part. When you start taking on the pressure, then you're stepping out of your role.
yeah. I have stepped out of my role, and Michelle just schooled me. She just schooled me, but it's okay. I sit there literally with my hands underneath my bum every single time. But
Oh, I get it. Me too. I'm not going. David's like, how are you at games? Like earlier, you say how, I mean, yeah, I get it.
and then my youngest one plays soccer, and so as soon as she kicks the ball, my leg starts moving. I'm like, what am I kicking? Like, why am I kicking? You know, because I just feel like I'm just out there with her, but it just never goes away. And it's funny because you guys are in the thick of it as young parents. So I always look at it in stages. Like you are in it mentally, but you're very physically into it. And then as they get older, like Nia and Mariana's age, it's more of a mental thing. They just want you to listen. They just want you to be there. So my question to you while you're in the thick of it is what is the hardest part about being in the thick of it?
Mm,
oh man,
I mean, you just said it. You control the controllables. You know through your experience of what is possible. So when you don't see that being executed, it just becomes frustrating. It's because you know. And it's like, they got to figure it out. So, I mean, that when you're in the thick of it, it's just understanding the things that, once again, you can control and the things you can have influence over. So just going back to that as the foundation, like, this isn't me playing the game right now. No matter how much I'm yelling or saying X, Y, and Z, by the end of the day, they're going through their journey of the process, the same the way we had to do it when we were that age. So knowing how to let go of that control piece of it and allowing the natural process to happen.
yeah, I agree with that. Like the process of understanding the stages of development and staying in that space. So whatever it is that they're working towards, understanding where they are in that process, and then staying where they are in that process. Like if you're getting too far ahead, then you're applying that pressure or you are leveling up that expectation. But it's just really understanding the stages of development, understanding the process, and then staying in that so that you can support where they are. They can pull out everything they can in that stage and then knowing when to move forward and increasing the expectation. But I would just say just respecting the process, respecting the stages of development.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you guys talked about that. So what would be I don't know, like what's the easiest part slash the most joyous part of parenting? I mean, obviously, you have these two incredible kids and like when you see them, it's like, I don't know if you're like me, but I could just eat my kids sometimes. I just love seeing them and I do talk about them like they're 5 and 3 and they're not. But like, what is the most joyous part of being a parent?
I mean, I know this is, I hope it's forever, but I know it's not. Just they come to us as a subject matter expert.
Oh,
Like
just
they feel,
forever.
no,
Forever.
yeah, like we know all the answers and they hold us at this level. And I mean, that's the beautiful part. They're going to get to an age that they're going to start to ask but they probably come to us for the big things, but it's going to be anything underneath the sun from a question standpoint. So I enjoy us being their encyclopedia, their dictionary, their math book, whatever. They looked at us as like almost like that superhero. So I know that starts, I don't know, you tell us it starts to maybe fade later, but I'm hoping that we stay so engaged
And
that,
it
you know,
fades around college for about 2, 3 years because we're stupid, and then all of a sudden, like, wow, what they were telling me kind of made sense, and then they like start calling you every day. So
yeah,
it's six on one hand, half a dozen on the other. What do you want? So
And
yeah,
I like how they surprise me, and I just look at them in awe sometimes that they have that thought, or just seeing one day where like Bane just looks like a older preteen versus a little boy. So I just love how the little surprises of their development just throws me off, like in a way that I'm like, wow, like they're growing up right before my eyes. And they teach me things, which I love about being a parent, like getting that two-way exchange and just helping us just grow, and understand more. And I get that from them, like from their perspective. They tell me things, they teach me things too. So I respect that about them. And I just love that they love us so much. Like I love their innocence, and I love like I was just talking about this earlier. My mom used to always talk about how I always thought I was invincible. But I was just naive. I was just staying in my own little bubble and just moving and what I knew my strengths were, what I was curious about, what I was interested in, and pushing the threshold of those things. And I see that in them now. And so I love that they're on that same journey I was in. So I respect that and love that about being a parent.
that's awesome. And then what do you wish for your kids? I mean, obviously we want them to be safe, but like just where they are right now, like what do you wish for them? And it may be completely different in 5 years, but what do you wish for them now?
I would say having a true understanding of who they are and being able to tap into what their unique gift is that they're to give to this world. I think with so much easily accessible information, a lot of people can consume and get lost into all these things and they lose sight of what their gift is and who they are. So that would be my greatest wish is that strong foundation of knowing who they are and championing that gift of what it is that they're to provide to this world.
Yeah, same. I just want them to experience all the things they see for themselves, taste all the things they want to taste, eat all the things, but just adventure of life, joy of life, the success of life. But I just want them to have just as many experiences as possible that their hearts really truly desire.
And as
Like,
parents, you have to be really open to what you just said because you want them to experience everything. And sometimes that's really hard for some parents to let go. And, in my situation, I was in a situation where I had to kind of let go, especially with my youngest one. And so I had to teach her how to travel and I had to teach her how to do different things because she wanted so much so fast. And so as a parent, you have to be really open to what Mechelle just said when you want them to see everything and taste everything. 'Cause that means that you're not always going to be there when they're doing that.
right,
And you're going to have to allow them to go and explore and be who they really
right.
are so they can really have that moment. So, my last question to you guys is what would you advise other young parents who are also in the thick of it and you know, they're busy, they're working, they got to get the kids here, they have to get the kids there. Like, what do you advise to them while you're in it? What's working for you that you can advise somebody else?
I would say at the foundation, those listening and not watching is just that faith, this faith being at the foundation and making sure that family is always priority. With so much that you're probably working for, saying this is for my family, all those hours, all that time, those days, those weeks, you won't get them back. You shelved it early before you know it, they're going to be grown. So like just making sure that you're intentional with your time, be present, be connected, and making sure that the family is always priority.
Yeah. And just making sure you do things together while you can, because the time together it's not always there.
Right.
So doing as much as you can together. Of course, everybody's going to have their own individual spaces, but we truly enjoy doing family things, whether that's movies or dinner or walks or bike rides. But even if it's not all the time, just making sure they're there, those moments are there, because together is not always going to look the same. So doing as much together with what that looks like at the time that you have with them for sure.
Well, thank you so much for being part of the Rise and Talk podcast. I totally appreciate you all's time. I hope that the listeners got something out of this, because I think that we had some really great information there for our listeners. And thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Remember, this podcast is meant for both education and entertainment purposes only. I am not a licensed therapist, so it's crucial to consult your physician, psychotherapist, or qualified health professionals for personalized advice. Until next time, take care. If you're enjoying this podcast, I would like to ask you to please subscribe, like, and share. That's what they told me to do at the end of this podcast. So could you hook me up? Thanks. Bye.